So I'm here with a book haul. These are all the books that I got in the month of November and I am so excited about so many of them, and there's quite a diverse selection. So hopefully something to interest everybody, but without further ado, let's get into the books, shall we? Let's start off with 3 books I was sent by Penguin very kindly as Christmas gifts. They emailed to ask if I'd like to pick 3 books from a selection that they had already curated to be sent as lovely Christmas gifts, and yes, I have already opened them. I opened them as soon as they came through the door and I am so excited for all of them. The first one is a beautiful new Penguin Classics cloth-bound edition of Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys. If you haven't heard of this book, it's inspired by the classic Jane Eyre and it's about Bertha, or the woman in the attic. I won't say any more than that if you haven't read Jane Eyre, but it's meant to be an incredible companion novel to the original. I haven't heard of anybody who doesn't adore this, and I adored Jane Eyre as well. And I think it's also considered a classic of feminist literature, so I'm really excited to get to this one, and this edition is stunning. I think this might be my favourite cloth-bound classic I've seen so far. But for a slightly more recent release, I have Hag-Seed by Margaret Atwood. This is in the Hogarth Shakespeare series where they've commissioned different famous authors to retell Shakespeare plays. And this one is a retelling of The Tempest, which I have actually read, so I'm really happy to have this one because I feel like I don't want to read the retellings until I've read the original plays. But since I've read The Tempest, I think I studied it in school, I am prepared to read Hag-Seed, and you all know I love Margaret Atwood so much, so I'm excited to see what she does with this because I have read before her retellings of Greek myths from the Canongate Myths series and adored that, one of my favourite books of all time, so I'm really intrigued to see what she does with Shakespeare. And lastly, another book by another author who I adore, and that is Autumn by Ali Smith. And can we just talk about this beautiful cover? It's got a sort of partial dust jacket just around some of it here, which is just beautiful. And I believe this is set in a Britain torn apart by either the Brexit vote or a fictional parallel division that Ali Smith's created, although I think it is Brexit that this book tackles, so it's super current. And it's about a world with increasing borders and class divides and a growth in hatred, I imagine, so really important, and one I should get to ASAP. Talking about important topics, the next 3 books I have are all non-fiction books that I requested from Zed Books. But before I mention the books, can I just show you their catalogue because it is amazing. It came with the books and this is what it looks like. More borders, more problems, and on the back it says no one is illegal, hashtag no borders. I just think this is possibly the best catalogue I've ever seen from a publishing house. The 3 books I have include Angry White People, which yes has an incredibly unattractive front cover, but it's a very unattractive topic in a way, an important topic to read about, but one I imagine is going to be quite unsettling because it is about coming face to face with the British far right, so it's about white supremacy and fascism and the rise of it in Britain, and yeah, I think it's going to be really intense but really important, again very current, very relevant, something that's happening at home here in Britain. I've had my eye on this book for a few months and I'm really glad I finally got a copy, and I'm going to have to prioritise this one I think. It also has a foreword by Benjamin Zephaniah, which is how I originally uncovered it I think, because I was googling about Benjamin Zephaniah, who's a poet I absolutely adore, so I take that as an excellent recommendation as well. The next book I have though is actually a collection of essays, and that's Virgin Envy, The Cultural Insignificance of the Hymen. Sorry, that's looking very washed out there. And these essays cover historical periods as well as modern issues, all surrounding ideas of virginity and almost the saintliness that's attached to virginity, and then the stigma that's attached to losing one's virginity, and even the idea of the first sexual encounter you have being a loss, which is very strange I find, and I'm really intrigued to read a book about that. And also, as the subtitle implies, about the hymen and how we associate virginity with the hymen when it's kind of irrelevant. It excludes those that don't have hymens, relationships that don't involve penetrative sex. It's also just straight up relevant because your hymen can break before you ever have sex through various different circumstances, and I imagine just generally all of our weird attitudes to virginity and where they come from. So sounds amazing actually. I'm really excited to read this. I've not read anything like this, but it is a topic that I'm very interested by, so looking forward to reading a book on it, and also one that includes lots of different voices. And then lastly from Z Books I have Leftover Women, The Resurgence of Gender Inequality in China by Lita Hong Fincher, and sorry, the author's name is up here. According to the blurb on the back of this book, women in China did acquire quite a few rights and more equalities, but which have in the past few years or decades since depleted once again. And although I know a little bit about China just generally from following the news, I've not actually read a lot of books about China, so I think this will be really, really informative, and I'm really interested by it. And it's actually going to be the Feminist Orchestra read for March, I believe it is. I'll link a Goodreads group down below so you can double check that, but I'm sure it's March. So I'll be interested to talk about this one with other people as well. But from serious non-fiction to a children's book, I requested this title from Pushkin Press's children's imprint, and it's The Song of Seven by, I'm going to butcher this, I've heard Sana pronounce this multiple times and I'm never going to be able to do it, so Tonka Drought? Something like that. I'm very sorry to all of the Dutch people watching right now, but this is a classic Dutch children's book which has now been translated into English. And I'm going to read you the blurb of this one because it just sounds really magical. Deep in the woods in a crooked house full of stairs, a young boy is kept prisoner by his uncle. He cannot meet other children or have any friends. He holds the key to a secret. Meanwhile, in a quiet village, Franz, the school teacher, invents incredible stories of perilous deeds, shipwrecks, desert islands and haunted castles to entertain the pupils in which he is the hero. Then one stormy evening, a mysterious letter blows into his doormat, summoning him to a meeting. Suddenly, Franz is on a real-life mission, one in which he will encounter magicians, secret passages, conspiracies, hidden treasures, a black cat with green eyes, and a sealed parchment which predicts the future. Sounds pretty awesome, right? A lot of the things I love about children's books, and I'm excited to finally give this author a shot. I did buy myself one book this month as well whilst I was picking up some books for people's Christmas presents. I couldn't resist Noam Chomsky's Making the Future. I especially felt like I needed this and I needed to read it and talk about it with people and share it with people since everything that's happened politically throughout the world this month and in previous months of the year, because this Noam Chomsky is specifically about political activism and action people can take. The subtitle is Occupations, Interventions, Empire and Resistance, and I think this is a very appropriate read for right now. I mean always, but right now I think a lot of people need to read something like this because they're feeling very despairing and they need to be invigorated, and really just some practical advice on changing the world. Actually, I did buy another book this month. I thought I only bought one, but I bought this one as well, and that is Refugee Tales. This book I picked up when Monica from She Might Be Monica was visiting. We filmed a video together. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it. But I picked this one up because the profits did go to a refugee charity, or two. All profits go to Gatwick Detainee Welfare Group and Kent Refugee Help, so I had to buy it. But the last two books I was sent, and the first one is stunning. You'll have seen it in my Christmas gift guide if you've watched it, and that's Christmas Days, 12 Stories and 12 Feasts for 12 Days by Jeanette Winterson. And these are stories written by Jeanette Winterson in the style of traditional Christmas folklore tales, and it just sounds wonderful. Jeanette Winterson is a spectacular writer. I adore her stuff, although I've not read anything for quite a few months, so I'm excited to read something new by her and get back into her writing. I find it quite addictive. I'm sure I'll want to pick up something else once I finish this one. And let's just take a second to look at this cover. Well done, vintage. And last but certainly not least is Multiple Choice by Alejandro Zambra. And this is the most fascinatingly formatted book. It is laid out like an exam paper. It begins off with some really basic multiple choice questions, and moves on to some like fill in the blank questions, the close reading exercises and questions requiring much more fuller written answers. And through this strange, almost choose your own adventure narrative style, the author is actually exploring education and politics in Chile. And that just sounds amazing. So I can't wait to sit down with a wee pen or pencil and work my way through this book. Probably over the Christmas break I think I might take this one home and do that. But that's everything I acquired in the month of November, no mean amount at all. If you have any thoughts on any of the books I've mentioned in this video, please do let me know. And until next time guys, happy reading. I'll see you all again soon. Bye!